Hello, everybody. My name is Kate Mahoney, and this is Gerontology 679, and this is my capstone presentation. So to begin off, I want to start with a little bit of background about me and my goals. My background is that I have 18 years of senior living experience. I started at the age of 19 and worked as a part-time receptionist at a memory care facility, a residential facility for those with Alzheimer's and dementia. Over the years, and as I pursued my degree in psychology, I fell in love with working with older adults. And I worked in different roles for 18 years in programming and in management in the senior living industry. I took about 10 years off to stay home with my daughter and help raise her. And afterwards, I went back into the field as an aging life care manager, also known as a geriatric care manager. In this role, I advocate and coordinate care for older adults. I work for a company called Elder Tree Care Management, and I've been doing that for about 5 years now. My goals in pursuing this degree, I want to continue to work in the field of dementia care. I want to utilize the knowledge that I've acquired through this program and really dig deep and make it relative and really apply it to the field of dementia and Alzheimer's care. Okay, objectives for this presentation. I'm going to demonstrate the knowledge in the following areas. I'm going to talk about the gerontological framework, theory, research, practice as a gerontologist, my field experience at Insight Memory Care Center, and the reflection and conclusion of the program and where I see myself going forward. So to begin with, the gerontological framework, otherwise known as the biopsychosocial perspective on aging. There are 3 areas of focus on the individual: biological, psychological, and social. So biology is exactly what it sounds like. It's the medical and health and the physical way that we age. This can be impacted through genetics if you've inherited a gene that gives you a certain disease. Also lifestyle, are you sedentary? Do you smoke? Are you active or engaging? And then medications and treatments on how we can improve our health overall. Psychological, these are coping skills. This is our self-esteem. Does one have good cognitive skills? What is the mental health? Do they have anxiety or depression? And then social, is an individual interacting with their peers? Do they have family relationships? What are their family dynamics? Are they engaging with the community? Are they out and about, or are they socially isolated? So an successful aging using the psychosocial approach, you want to blend the 3 areas. So from a biology point of view, this is when somebody has a low probability of disease and is medically healthy overall. Psychologically, when someone has a high cognitive function and good self-esteem, they're free from mental illness. And socially, when one has active engagement in life, they're out and about, they're interacting with their community, they may be volunteering, going to lunch with friends, still working. You combine these 3 areas and you're going to have a successful aging model. So biopsychosocial approach in the field. I have 2 examples here. My first one is with Mrs. Smith when I was working as a aging life care manager early on. Mrs. Smith was an individual who came to us needing help. She was very much isolated in a large house she lived in for many years. Her family had all moved about. Her 5 kids are all over the United States. And a neighbor noticed that she needed extra attention and assistance because of her failing memory and her isolation. So we went in and did a consultation and did a assessment, and we found that the best way to approach Mrs. Smith was to start with the social aspect. She had been very engaged in the community for a very long time, and even though she was having memory issues, she was still very highly functioning. So with Mrs. Smith, we got her friends back involved. We got her family to visit more. We hired a friendly visitor to come visit with her twice a week, take her out to the restaurants that she had known people at, get her hair done at the place she had been going to for 30 years. Um, the friends that she was seeing were people that she used to work with, that she had worked for in the government for many, many years. Once that started, we noticed that her mild cognitive impairment started to improve and her self-esteem improved. She was in a better mood. And then finally, even though she had been refusing to see a doctor for several years, she started to agree to see different doctors for her arthritis and her heart issues that she had. So by approaching it from the three different points of view, we were able to improve her overall quality of life. At Insight Memory Care, where I did my internship, they have a daycare center for people with memory and cognitive impairments. And as part of it, they develop comprehensive care plans. They have a nurse who looks at the biological and health point of view. They have a social worker who looks at the psychological point of view and social point of view. And then recreation therapy, who really focuses on the engagement and the social interaction. So from these 3 points of views, they have meetings, they communicate on a regular basis, and they work together in order to provide that overall best care and best quality of life for the individuals. Okay, so next we're moving on to theory. First, we need to ask, what is theory? So simply put, it's a set of ideas with the goal to explain something using facts and hypotheses. A theory can help identify a problem and also create interventions to solve that problem. Theory in gerontology in particular makes assumptions about behaviors or problems. When I think of this, I think of how in a residential setting or in a daycare setting for those with memory impairment, at the Insight Daycare Center. In the afternoon, a lot of people tend to have agitated and anxious behaviors. So one can create a theory why these problems exist. Are they sundowning, meaning that as the sun goes down, people just do get more agitated because they're tired? Is there something else going on? A theory will make an assumption about this behavior. Theory provides a framework for a gerontologist to study the aging process, as I said before, to explain why certain phenomena occur. And it plays 3 critical roles. Guides research, it helps explain research findings, and it informs interventions to solve these related problems to aging. Okay, so now there are the types of gerontological theory. There's a lot here. I'm just going to skim briefly over them. The life course approach and lifespan theory, I will talk more about in the next couple of slides. Role theory is when somebody believes they have a very specific role, especially with cultural norms that could be different in the United States versus India versus China. Exchange theory, this is a perceived loss of power and status as we age. And again, that can be different depending on where you are in the world. Ecological theory, relationship between the individual and at different levels of the environment. So how we relate to policies and rules, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to our families. Explanatory theory, how our behavior changes over time, and change theory, which guides the development of intervention. So I want to talk about my growth in theory in the field. This really was an area of large growth for me because I'm a returning student, an older student, getting my master's degree, pursuing my master's degree. It's been a while since I was in undergraduate studies and studied theory. I have to say that what resonated with me most, what theory overall really made a big impact, is the life course perspective. This is the theory that from the time somebody is born, the time they pass away, our life's events can direct the course of our lives and really affect how we age and how we wind up retiring. For example, if somebody is born into a situation of poverty or have a disability, it may put them on a trajectory where they're not, poverty in particular, where they're not exposed to a lot of educational resources, educational opportunities, that therefore their working environment may not be as lucrative, because they didn't have the educational experience, and therefore as they work throughout their lives, they may not have enough money to save for retirement, which may lead them to have to work longer in life, not be able to do things that they wanted to do when they retire, and not have the finances, and may even have to go on Medicaid in order to help with any health related issues. That's just an example. That's not anything written in stone. Ultimately, the individual has the ability to make choices and that will affect their own life course. Relate this to the field because person-centered care and the life course perspective kind of go hand in hand. Person-centered care is making sure that we take care of individuals, the aging individual, uniquely and individually. Each person is unique and they've had their own experiences over their life course, and therefore I cannot treat Bob the same way I treat Mary. I have to know their background and really focus their care around their experiences, their preferences, and their individuality. Okay, next is research. Research simply is questioning and investigating. It's a way or a process of seeking an answer to a question that comes up in a gerontologist's mind or their experience or their time in the field. Researchers do the following: they evaluate how something is done, they describe an event and experience, explore new ways of thinking, generate new ways of thinking, and explore something that could be bothersome in their practice. So when doing research in gerontology, there are several factors to consider. First of all, the characters of an older population. They might be having issues on a sensory level, physical level, ambulation, cognition, memory, needing help with activities of daily living, and so on. And also they need to figure out one's own role in the process, the researcher does, and what personal bias they may have on the research that they are doing. Informed consent in scientific articles. Informed consent is a process in which you give the individual involved in the research important information, including risks and benefits. You think about medical procedures or treatments or genetic testing or trials that it might be involved in. It's only ethical to give them consent and inform them of everything that could be going on. Scientific articles then are created and written involving an abstract, an introduction, methods, results, and discussion. This is an overall succinct and summarized way of explaining everything that has been done with the research and what has been found. In the research, you're going to get, as I mentioned, results. And this is data, qualitative versus quantitative data. So when we're talking about quantitative research, that refers to the numbers, the empirical information that you get from the results. Qualitative refers to an inquiry that is most often a word or short phrase, uses coding for thematic analysis, whereas quantitative is more likely to use an Excel spreadsheet to analyze the results. A lot of research involves mixed methods, which is using both quantitative and qualitative approaches. Research in the field, in my experience, this also is an area of growth for me. I've not incorporated a lot of it in the past, but after going through this program, it has really enticed me and taught me that I need to be more aware of how research plays a role in my day-to-day experiences out in the field. I've become familiar with how to read research proposals and conclusions that are founded. This is really important in working in the field of Alzheimer's disease and dementia, because there's research and being done all over the place, brain initiatives all over the place, throughout for Alzheimer's disease, through the Alzheimer's Association and other initiatives. This will lead to guiding me to the way I interact with those who have the disease, and just being aware of the medical care that is being developed, medications, treatments, so forth. And my interaction with doctors and other medical professionals is directly impacted by the latest research. Okay, moving on to practice as a gerontologist. This involves ethics, communication, and collaboration. First of all, what is ethics? It's a guide of moral principles that directs the way we interact with individuals out in the field. The National Association of Professional Gerontologists, otherwise known as the NAPG, it demonstrates or illustrates what ethics are and different guiding principles that a gerontologist needs to have. Advocating for our older individual is one of them. Not showing preference or bias towards others, respect, privacy are other values through the NAPG. Communication, this involves listening skills, body language, note-taking, and validation. I highly believe that listening skills are the most important thing we can do with communication. I believe this is a strength of mine. I also believe that it is underrated when we think about communication. Good body language, taking good notes so that you can refer back to them later, so you really have that knowledge. And validation. Validation involves letting people know that they're not alone, agreeing with what they're saying, validating their feelings overall. Collaboration, professional competency, the knowledge that you have as a gerontologist, and really being sound in that knowledge. This may also involve referring out to other people when you don't have the answer to a question or to a situation, and finding the right subject matter expert so that you're collaborating with other professionals in the community to give the best advice, to give the best quality of care and to the individual. Also practicing as a gerontologist, working with clients as an aging life care manager, and working with participants at the Insight Memory Care Center are my two experiences I'd like to talk about. Working as an aging life care manager, I have to use respect. I have to consider privacy, confidentiality, and I have to use my listening skills, as I mentioned earlier. Also, finally, as a aging life care manager, people come to me for consultations. I have to make sure that I refer them to other professionals in my community, whether it be somebody who helps coordinate moving for an older adult from a big house to a small apartment, or to somebody who needs a neurologist. I only have so much knowledge and have to really collaborate. Working with participants at the Insight Memory Care Center, I really had to value confidentiality. There's a group of 60 to 100 individuals at any given time in the daycare center, and it could be easy to really compromise their confidentiality and their privacy. So that is something that as a gerontologist, you really need to make sure is upheld, and that we treat individuals with these values. So speaking of my field experience, I know I've referenced it several times. It was performed at the Insight Memory Care Center in Fairfax, Virginia. The daycare center is one component of the overall center. They also have a component where they do education and training in the community for professionals, for spouses or children of those with Alzheimer's and dementia, seminars, support groups, trying to think what else, and just other programs for people with mild cognitive impairment. So there's an array of services that are involved in this memory care center. It's unique in its existence because it's not run by the county. However, it is funded in part by the county and also through private pay. So it's a nonprofit. There's a lot of grant money that comes in, and but it is a more extensive service versus the county-run services. My responsibilities were primarily at the daycare center. I processed intakes for new participants, meeting with families, doing paperwork, etc. I created and updated care plans of the participants. This was primarily done by the social work department and was a comprehensive care plan for all participants in the daycare center. I also assisted with daily activity programming, performed cognitive screening tests such as the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, otherwise known as the MOCA, and I assisted with the daily check-in and check-out process of individuals in and out of the center. Okay, reflection on the overall program. My learning experience exceeded my expectations. I applied to the gerontology program with an expectation that I would broaden my horizons on the overall field of gerontology. As I mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, it exceeded that. The program went in depth in so many different areas, everything from just deepening my knowledge on elder care to social services to topics like ageism, and then the areas where I need to grow the most through theory and research. I think that my strengths in the program really were focused around the actual practice. I've had a lot of experience out in the field, so really being able to build upon my strength as a confidant, someone who listens very well, someone who collaborates very well. I think learning about that as practicing as a gerontologist really just reinforced my strengths there. Areas of growth, as I mentioned before, were definitely in the area of research and theory. I think that where I will utilize it most is in the area of the Alzheimer's disease. What is the newest and latest treatments that research has come out with? Theory, as I mentioned earlier on, with relating to the person-centered care and how I can, apply that on a regular basis in my interactions with older adults, whether it be coordinating care for them or working directly with them in a memory care center. Moving forward, I really feel that I'm going to be able to take this knowledge that I've built and apply it to my direct field work. I have so much information that I can reflect on and I can refer to out in the field as a gerontologist. I also want to mention the three assignments that really I really enjoyed and really felt got the most out of. First one was the social work resource guide of my community. I've been working in this community in Fairfax, Virginia for a very long time, but with this assignment, I found so many other resources in my community that I didn't know existed simply by doing my own research and figuring out what was going on currently in the community. Um, the elder law class. This was an area I would also say was a area of growth for me. I do work with elder law attorneys as an aging life care manager, and I've always been a little intimidated in this area. So the elder law class and the case studies really helped me grow. And then finally, I loved the healthy aging class, and I loved watching Up, and it will always have a very special place in my heart, and evaluating Mr. Fredrickson and the other characters from all different points of healthy aging views, and getting back to ultimately the framework of the biopsychosocial aspect of gerontology. I hope that I will be gaining a position. I've actually applied for a position within the memory care center where I did my internship. It's in programming and recreation. I also plan to stay part-time and work or as needed as an aging life care manager, and leave that door open. So maybe I will eventually go full-time there if I decide not to work as in the programming and recreation arena with the memory care facility, the daycare facility. So that is it. That is my capstone presentation. I thank you for listening, and I hope you have enjoyed my presentation.